The heart is almost completely destroyed, and the lump is the personality of God, who is faced with the constant response. He establishes the irrevocable fact. O Timirandhasya Jnananjana Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha.
I was born in the darkest of ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I have offered my respectful obeisances unto him. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Hare Krishna. I heard in leadership conference from Jai Nitai Prabhu, he does devotee care in London, that one time Prabhupada told Govinda Dasi that he needed some help with typing service for his books, but she didn't have any experience with that typing service. So then when she approached Prabhupada, she said, Prabhupada, I don't have any experience with typing service. I don't know how to do this service. So Prabhupada said, you will learn. And he said, if you recite these two mantras before starting of any service, Krishna will provide intelligence to be able to do it. Those two mantras were actually Om Jnanatimirandhasya and then Shri Rupa Manobhishtam. So remember, if you feel intimidated by any service, before starting it, just recite these two mantras and remember Prabhupada, and I'm sure Krishna will provide strength to be able to. Kamsa to kill Krishna. Yeah.
Text reading. One day, a year after Krishna's appearance, Mother Yashoda was patting her son on her lap. But suddenly she felt the child to be heavier than a mountain peak, and she could no longer bear his weight.
Feeling the child to be as heavy as entire rivers, and therefore being anxious, thinking that perhaps the child was being attacked by some other ghost or demon, the astonished mother Yashoda put the child down on the ground and began to think of Narayana. Foreseeing disturbances, she called for the Brahmanas to contract this heaviness, and then she engaged in her other household affairs. She had no alternative than to remember the lotus feet of Narayana, for she could not understand that Krishna was the original source of everything.
When the child was sitting on the ground, a demon named Trinavarta, who was a servant of Kamsa's, came there as a whirlwind, at Kamsa's instigation, and very easily carried the child away into the air.
Covering the whole land of Gokula with particles of dust, that demon, acting as a strong whirlwind, covered everyone's vision and began vibrating everywhere with a greatly fearful sound.
For a moment, the whole pasturing ground was overcast with dense darkness from the dust storm, and Mother Yashoda was unable to find her son where she had placed him.
Text 23. Because of the bits of sand thrown about by Trinavarta, people could not see themselves or anyone else, and thus they were illusioned and disturbed.
Because of the dust storm stirred up by the strong whirlwind, Mother Yashoda could find no trace of her son, nor could she understand why. Thus she fell down on the ground like a cow who has lost her calf and began to lament very pitifully.
When the force of the dust storm and the wind subsided, Yashoda's friends, the other gopis, approached Mother Yashoda, hearing her pitiful cry. Not seeing Krishna present, they too felt very much aggrieved and joined Mother Yashoda in crying, their eyes full of tears.
Having assumed the form of forceful wind, the demon Tarnavarta took Kansa very high in the sky, but when Krishna became heavier than the demon had to stop his force and could go no further.
Text 27. Because of Krishna's weight, Trinavat considered him to be like a great mountain or a hunk of iron. But because Krishna had caught the demon's neck, the demon was unable to throw him off. He therefore thought of the child as wonderful, since he could neither bear the child nor cast aside the burden.
Text 28. With Krishna grasping him by the throat Trinavarta choked, unable to make even a sound or even to move his hands and legs. His eyes popping out, the demon lost his life and fell, along with the little boy, down to the ground of Raja.
The gopis immediately picked.
No, the
Fighting hand.
Okay. With the gopis who had got trapped were crying for Krishna, the demon fell from the sky onto a big slab of stone. His limbs dislocated as if he had been by yes, the arrow of Lord Shiva like the
The gopis immediately picked Krishna up from the chest of the demon and delivered him, free from all inauspiciousness, to Mother Yashoda. Because the child, although taken into the sky by the demon, was unhurt and now free from all danger and misfortune, the gopis and cowherd men, headed by Nanda Maharaj, were extremely happy.
It is most astonishing that although this innocent child was taken away by the Rakshasa to be eaten, he has returned without having been killed or even injured. Because this demon was immense, cruel and sinful, he has been killed for his own sinful activities. This is the law of nature. An innocent devotee is always protected by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and a sinful person is always vanquished for his sinful life.
Nand Maharaj and others said, "We must previously have performed austerities for a very long time, worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, perform pious activities for public life, constructing public roads and wells, and also give charity. As a result of which this boy, although faced with death, has returned to give happiness to his relatives."
Having seen all these incidents in Brihaduan, Nanda Maharaj became more and more astonished, and he remembered the words spoken to him by Vasudeva in Mathura.
One day, Mother Yashoda, having taken Krishna up and placing him on her lap, was feeding him milk from her breast with maternal affection. The milk was flowing from her breast and the child was drinking it.
O King Parikshit, when the child Krishna was almost finished drinking his mother's milk and Mother Yashoda was touching him and looking at his beautiful, brilliantly smiling face, the baby yawned, and Mother Yashoda saw in his mouth the whole sky, the higher planetary system, and the earth, the luminaries in all directions, the sun, the moon, fire, air, the seas, islands, mountains, rivers, forests, and all kinds of living entities moving and non-moving.
When Mother Yashoda saw the whole universe within the mouth of her child, her heart began to throb, and in astonishment she wanted to close her restless eyes.
Haribol. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 10th canto, 7th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled The Killing of the Demon Trinavarta. So we're focusing on verse 26. Trinavarta Shantarayo Vatya Rupa Dharoharan Krishnam Nabhogato Gantum Nashaknod Bhuri Bharabhret
Trinavarta Shantarayo
Vatya Rupa Dharoharan
Krishnam
Krishnam Nabhogato
Nashaknot bhui brat.
Nashaknod Bhuri Bharabhret
Trinavarta Shantarayo
Vatya Rupa Dharoharan
Vatya Rupa Dharoharan
Krishnam Nabhogato Gantum
Nashaknod Bhuri Bharabhret
Nashaknod Bhuri Bharabhret
Trishnavarta Santarayo
Trinavarta Shantarayo
Vatya Rupa Dharoharan
Vatyarupadaroharam
Krishnam Nabhogato Gandham
Nasak notes Guri Harav
Nashakno Guri
It's
Bharate.
okay, it's gotta complete.
Okay. So, word to word reading all together. Trinavata, the demon Krishna, Shankaraya, the force of the brass reduced, Vatyarupadhara, who had assumed the form of forceful whirlwind, Haran, and had thus taken away. Krishna, Krishna, the supreme personality of Godhead, Navadata, went up to the top of the sky, Gandhi, to go further. Nashaka was not able, Buri Bharapre, because Krishna then became more powerful and heavy than the demon. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki. Translation altogether. Having assumed the form of a forceful whirlwind, the demon Vinavarta took Krishna very high in the sky. But when Krishna became heavier than the demon had to stop his force and could not go further.
Acting
Acting?
Charades.
I don't think so.
I think we should just read it. I'm very bad at it. Yes, half.
Here is a competition in yogic power between Krishna and Trinavartarashura. By practicing mystic yoga, asuras generally attain some perfection in the 8 siddhis or perfections, namely Anima, Laghima, Mahima, Prapti, Prakamya, Ishitva, Vashitva, and Kamavashayita. But although a demon may acquire such powers to a very limited extent, he cannot compete with the mystic power of Krishna. For Krishna is Yogeshwara, the source of all mystic power. Yatra Yogeshwara Hari. No one can compete with Krishna. Sometimes, of course, having acquired a fragmented portion of Krishna's mystic power, asuras demonstrate their power to the foolish public and assert themselves to be God, not knowing that God is the supreme Yogeshwara. Here also we see
that Trinavrata assumed the Mahima Siddhi and took Krishna away as if Krishna were an ordinary child. But Krishna also became a mystic Mahima Siddha.
Yeah.
When Mother Yashoda was carrying him, he became so heavy that his mother, who was usually accustomed to carrying him, could not bear him and had to place him down on the ground. Thus Trinavrata had been able to take Krishna away in the presence of Mother Yashoda. But when Krishna, high in the sky, assumed the Mahima Siddhi, the demon able to go further because of leak to stop his force and come down according to Krishna's desire. One should not therefore compete with Krishna's mystic power. Devotees automatically have all mystic power.
Devotees automatically have all mystic power. But they do not like to compete with Krishna. Instead, they fully surrender to Krishna. And the yogic power is demonstrated by Krishna's mercy. Devotees can show mystic yoga so powerful that a demon could not even dream of it. But they never try to demonstrate it for their personal sense gratification. Whatever they do is for the service of the Lord, and therefore they're always in a position superior to that of the demons. There are many karmis, yogis, and jnanis who artificially try to compete with Krishna, and thus ordinary foolish people who do not care to hear Srimad Bhagavatam from authorities consider some rascal yogi to be Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. At the present moment, there are many so-called Babas who present themselves as incarnations of God by showing some insignificant mystic wonder, and foolish people regard them as God because of lacking knowledge of Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So, here Prabhupada has very nicely explained the glories of Srimad Bhagavatam and also talked about how people, they attain some mystic power and then they try to compete with Krishna. Like Trinavartasura, he had Laghima Siddhi, that means one of the 8 mystic siddhis, Laghima Siddhi, which means he could adjust his weight. He could become lighter than the lightest. And Prabhupada talks that Prabhupada here talks about that. Some people, they consider themselves as God after attaining these siddhis, and they try to fool people around them. So what people do is they start following these mystic yogis, and these mystic yogis perform some miracles. Let's say they healed somebody, or they generated some food from somewhere, and then people think that, oh, that this person is providing for my needs, he's God, he's everything to me. But then what happens is that these yogis, sometimes they take advantage of people in various ways. Money, different, like they make them their servants, and then these people that intelligence is just lost because they're not hearing from a bona fide source. So these yogis concoct their own ideas, and they share commentary on Shastras which is not bona fide. So people, they don't understand what the truth of the life actually is. What is that absolute truth? Also, what happens is that then ordinary people, they start following these, and by following, they start following what they're doing as well. So let's say this person performed very rigorous tapasya to attain some mystic siddhi, and now they think that, ordinary people think that, like, they will be able to attain that and be happy. So then they start these austerities and tapasyas, which is not actually possible to do for everybody, and nor that it can get the highest benefit for you. You know, it'll give you something that will stay in this world. It'll give you something that is not transcendental, but when you read Srimad Bhagavatam, when you read Vaishnava literature, you see you get love of Godhead. And love of Godhead is something that stays with you even after you leave this world. So you get something much more than just any mystic siddhi when you follow and hear, when you follow a bona fide representative of Krishna and hear from Bhagavatam. And Sanatan Goswami actually has really beautifully glorified Bhagavatam, and I shared that document in the group. So I was thinking to maybe recite those verses and just read that to. It's very beautiful, it's very nice. So let's see. Maybe you can put it up as well. It's called Srimad Bhagavatam Mahima Stotram. Ready? Yes. We'll recite together, so first Sanskrit and then English. Or let's recite the Sanskrit together and I'll recite the English. Sarva Shastra Vidusha Sarva Vedaika Sattvara Sarva Siddhanta Ratnadya Sarva Lokeka Viprada. O nectar from the ocean of all scriptures, singular fruit of all the Vedas, rich mine of the precious gem of all conclusive truth, you are the only giver of sight to all the worlds. Sarva Bhagavata Prana Srimad Bhagavata Parigana Guru Aditya Shri Krishna Parivardhita. O life air of all the Supreme Lord's devotees. Actually, we can recite it together. O life air, Srimad Bhagavata, you are the sun rising in the darkness of Kali. You are the exact image of Shri Krishna. Paramananda Padaya Deva Varsya Chayate Sarvada Sarva Sevaya Shri Krishnaya Namostute. I bow down to you, who are supremely blissful to be. Your every syllable pours down the flood of prema. You can always be served by everyone. You are Shri Krishna himself. Madhika Bandhu Matsangin Madhuro Man Mahadana Manishkara Manbhagya Manananda Namostute. My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my great love, my savior, my good fortune.
O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O exalter of the most fallen, please never leave me. Always appear in my heart and your voice with pure love.
So you see here, in a lot of different places, it said, "You are the exact image of Sri Krishna. You are Sri Krishna himself." And we also say that Srimad Bhagavatam is the literary incarnation of Krishna. So when we read Srimad Bhagavatam, what we're essentially doing is associating with Krishna. When we chant, we associate with Krishna. When we dance, it's said that, I heard it in Radhika Das Prabhu's concert, that when you sit and chant, divinity sits beside you. When you stand and chant, divinity stands beside you. When you dance and chant, divinity dances with you. Right? So when you read Srimad Bhagavatam, Krishna is actually associated, you're actually associating with Krishna. You're hearing from him directly. So there's no chance of being misled. Right? And that's why people, Prabhupada has said that they do not care to read Srimad Bhagavatam. And because of that, they consider some rascal yogi to be Bhagavan. Because if people read Srimad Bhagavatam, they know that what is the definition of Bhagavan? Who is Bhagavan? Krishna himself. He has all the 6 opulences in full. You know, these yogis, if they show you some magic, people just become, oh, this is everything. I want this. But you don't actually want this. You want something much more higher than that, which Bhagavatam can give you. So that's why we're reading from Bhagavatam, even Krishna's pastimes, because these are actually very accurate descriptions of Bhagavatam. You know, when Hari Parshad Prabhu was here, he was explaining that in nowadays there are a lot of TV shows that are made on Mahabharata and Ramayana and even Krishna's life. But they all have added some different elements to it just to make it more appealing to the audience. That is not the actual way that things happen or the way that pastime happen. But Bhagavatam gives the exact, how do you say, like, step-by-step explanations of how things happen. What were the emotions of every single person in that pastime? What was this person thinking? What was the other person thinking? What is the learning from this pastime? You know. So, yeah. So this Trinavarta pastime, how it starts is that Mother Yashoda is sitting in courtyard with Krishna on her lap, right? And then what is she doing? Is she actually is. You know how when babies, you play with them, you like throw them in the air and catch them midair? So that's what Mother Yashoda was doing with Krishna. And Krishna just was very happy and he was smiling, and you can think of Krishna's smile, lotus-like smile. His lips are explained as red bimba fruits. We read in Damodar Ashtakam as well. And his cheeks are also like red bimba fruit. And he was smiling, and both his lips and cheeks were looking like bimba fruit, red color. And you know when children are happy, their cheeks also become red. So Krishna was just very happy, and Mother Yashoda was playing with him. And then Acharyas explained that Mother Yashoda was trying to say that, Krishna, if you're in danger, don't worry, I'll protect you. So she would throw him up, and then she would catch him mid-air, that if you're in danger, I will protect you. Yeah? And Krishna was very happy. And Krishna was thinking, oh, just by going 2 feet up in the air, I'm feeling so much joy. So what if I go way up in the sky, you know, and I'll get to see all the Vraja, all the Vrajvasis, all at the same time, and it'll give me so much joy, you know. So he was thinking like that. And then what happened is, it's explained in here that Krishna exhibited his Mahima Siddhi. Mahima Siddhi means he became very heavy, that Mother Yashoda could not pick him up. So then she placed him down on the floor, because his weight was almost like a hill. So she placed him down on the floor, and then Krishna knew what was happening. Krishna knew past, present, and future, right? And in Bhagavad Gita, it said that Krishna knows everybody's past, everybody's future, everybody's present. You know, even if we were not present at that time, when like we don't remember anything from our past life. You know, Krishna was explaining to Arjuna that you may not remember, but I was always there with you when you were going through all these lifetimes. So Krishna knew that this demon was coming, and he's sent by Kamsa, and he's very horrible, like he's very cruel. So then he thought of protecting Mother Yashoda. So it's like Mother Yashoda was thinking, oh, if you're in danger, I'll protect you. But then Krishna was like, oh, this demon is coming and I have to protect Mother Yashoda. So he increased his weight, and then when Mother Yashoda kept him down and went inside, just in that span of 10 seconds, Trinavarta came and swept Krishna off. You know, swept Krishna off. And it's explained here, we read through translations, that his form was like a whirlwind. His form like a tornado kind of. You know, and when he came, everywhere dust was rising. You know, and people could not even see each other, or because it was so thick, the storm was so thick that they were not able to see. Yes, they were not able to see anything or anyone. And the lecture that I was hearing to prepare for this class, Prabhu was talking about that. Demons, they have, when they attain these mystic powers, they attain the ability to be able to change their form. And when they change their form, it's not like, it's like, so in Ramayana, when Ravana had sent that deer to distract Ramachandra, Marichi, so that demon had actually attained the form of the deer. So whatever characteristics of a deer was, that Marichi was able to feel that. You know, it wasn't like he wore a fancy dress for a deer and he was human. It wasn't like that. He took the form of the demon, right? So he took the characteristics of the demon. So same was with Putna. She took the characteristics of a very beautiful woman to deceive the Rajbasis and try to kill Krishna. So what happened was, when Krishna was trying to suck her life form out, right? So during that time, all their focus, all the demons' focus, it goes into survival mode, you know. So then the siddhis that they were able to hold the form together, then all that energy goes into saving them. So that's when Putna got out of her, like, you know, beautiful woman form and became very ghastly, like big ghastly demon. But then for Trinavartasura, he was a mixture. So he was human on the top, or demon at the top, and took the characteristic of a whirlwind in the lower portion of his body. So yeah, so he swept Krishna off. So here Acharyas explained that let's see our heart is as Vrindavan, you know, and then Krishna resides in that Vrindavan. You know, Mahaprabhu always says that my heart is like Vrindavan, you know, and Krishna resides in that heart. But then what is that storm that represents? So Trinavarta Asura, every Asura that came in Krishna's pastime represents some kind of an anartha, or some kind of negative quality. Like Putna represented fake guru, you know, who deceive people to do something. And Shaktasura, who was the cart demon right before this, who came, he represents lethargy and laziness. Trinavartasura represents false pride based on material scholarship. That's what Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains that. So that storm which takes Krishna away from your heart represents false ego, delusion, and doubts. You know, so when we come new to Krishna consciousness, we have a lot of doubts in our mind. we have a lot of questions that we want to ask and get answers of, right? So then we approach a guru, we approach a teacher, to get those answers, right? And we get some satisfactory answers, but sometimes we don't get those satisfactory answers. But what does our teacher and mentor say? Keep performing bhakti, you'll find these answers, right? But then there's another platform of people who, on a very mental speculative level, they keep on asking questions over and over again, and going back and forth, arguing over things that just there's no end of. You can only know that after you've achieved some kind of level in bhakti. Like, for example, the question of did we fall from Vaikuntha? Like, this is a very speculative question. We don't have an answer to this. Prabhupada has said that. How does it matter? If you fall, if you not fall, you're here now. And you have a chance to do bhakti, so just do it. And so these doubts can arise, but we have to be very cautious of not giving into these speculations and being very stuck. Also, we need an offenses, right? Material attachments, even after understanding so many instructions on this matter, right? So when you're understanding these instructions and doubts are coming, we should not lose faith. So when we are new, we have something, we have some questions, right? But it's like at some point, faith have to come in. You have to believe to be able to move forward from that stage. But people who get stuck on that stage of argumentation, going back and forth, then that sweeps Krishna away from their heart. And Prabhupada explained in these purport that mental speculation can only take you to a certain level. After that, you have to believe and try it for yourself. It's like you're saying, oh, this medicine is good, this medicine is good. Initially, you use logic to figure it out, but at the end, you have to try it to be able to understand which one is good for you, right? So that's what doubts do. And also, Prabhupada has explained that when these asuras or these, sometimes people, when they have some mystic power, they try to think that, they think that they got it from their own merit. They try to sign it off as their own. Like Gita. You've seen that some people write commentaries on Gita, right? And then they will mentally speculate on every single verse, not giving you what exactly Krishna is saying. And then at the end of the book, they sign their own name. This is from this. But no, Prabhupada gave it as it is. There wasn't any mental speculation. There is nothing to speculate about. People who speculate, they say that there is no absolute truth, right? But that statement in itself is contradictory, because if there is no absolute truth, how can you say that there is no absolute truth? This sentence in itself has a problem, right? Like, people who are speculating. So, yeah. And we have to be very cautious of when these doubts come in. We have to approach the right person and surrender our mind and intelligence. Through mind, desires come, and through intelligence, doubts come, right? When desire come, desire, like, if we desire something that's not good for us and we end up indulging in it, it makes us humble. It makes us feel the need to have Krishna. But the problem with doubts is that they make you feel superior. They make you feel that you're something more than the other person, and then Krishna doesn't like that buffed up prideful face. Krishna doesn't like that. So then that brings you down, right? So that was about doubts. So Trinavarta took away Krishna, and then Mother Yashoda. So there was a lot of big storm, right? Like she was trying to find Krishna and she couldn't find it in that storm. So then she was very much aggrieved, and she just couldn't take the pain. Your body can only take pain to a certain level. After that, it shuts off. If the pain exceeds so much and your body cannot take it, the mind shuts your body off to just so that you don't have to feel that pain. So she felt unconscious because she was feeling so much pain. And pure devotees, like if you read, like we read Sri Shastakam, we read verse 8, right? Like 7, in which one of 6 or 7, in which Mahaprabhu talks about that. Like separation from you is like one moment is like 12 years or more, and if you hear the pastimes of Mahaprabhu when he's going through that lamentation phase of separation, his body is like there's a description that he at night in Gambhira, when he was there, he was banging his head on the wall because he was feeling so much pain inside that like he couldn't just bear it. And he ran out of the room to Jagannath Puri calling for Krishna. And when devotees found him, his form was like a pumpkin, his like he was just like this and just calling for Krishna. And sometimes like his joints would dislocate, like his bodily features would just become very much disoriented. It's like, so Mother Yashoda wasn't able to take that pain. So when Krishna was in the sky, he was enjoying his ride, and he was seeing Vraja, he was seeing Vraja devotees. But when Vrajvasi, they saw that there's a big storm, and they heard cries of when this guy had gone up there, then the storm down, it kind of subsided. So then all the Vrajvasis ran to Mother Yashoda because she was crying and then she fainted, but they heard her cries before. So then they went straight to Mother Yashoda and they saw him, like, they couldn't find Krishna and they saw her lying down, so they started crying as well. There's a description of it, right? So then when Krishna was up in the sky and he saw, when he saw that Mother Yashoda's condition was very bad and all the Vrajvasi's conditions was also very bad, and that's when he was like, okay, enough of play, now I have to go back, right? So here also a philosophical point comes in that Krishna doesn't come back unless we shed tears of separation and tears of longing, and I always remember this pastime of Draupadi. Krishna, when Draupadi Chir Haran was happening, when Kauravas were disrobing Draupadi, at that time, Krishna knows everything, right? In that moment, he knows what is going to happen. And in that moment, Krishna was very much anxious to go. But he said to Sri Radha, he was with Sri Radha at that time, and he told her that, oh Radha, my great devotee is in distress. And then Sri Radha was like, oh, then you should go. You should go now. Just go. But then Krishna said, I cannot go right now because she hasn't given me the road of tears to come in. But as soon as Draupadi started crying and then she surrendered everything onto Krishna, that's when Krishna came, right? So when Vrajvasis, they were crying and lamenting for Krishna to come back, and they had lost all hope, and they were just very much in meditations of Krishna to come back, thinking about how much time they've spent with him, all his pastimes, everything was just going like back and forth in their mind. And Krishna was like, oh, this is enough, now I have to go back. So then he increased his weight. When Krishna increased his weight, he became as heavy as like a mountain or an iron hunk. And then Trinavarta said that he couldn't take that pain, he couldn't take that weight over shoulder. Now Krishna was like, during Putna time, Putna screamed very like high. Her scream was screeching, and Krishna was like, oh, that scared all the Brajvasis. So this time I won't let that happen. So he held Trinavartasura from his throat. So then even he was trying to scream, his scream wasn't coming out. But because Krishna was choking him so hard that his eyes popped out of his socket and he went down crashing on the floor. And Krishna was just on his chest. So then Acharyas also explained that, Trinavarta's idea of killing Krishna was that I know this child is majestic, because he's killed Putna, he's killed Shaktasura, and he's killed a lot of demons that came before me. So then I won't take any chance, and I will take him as high as possible, and I will throw him from that height. And so there's no chance for him to be saved. And then Acharyas talk about that this height represents all the puffed up pride that we have in ourselves because of material scholarships, material opulences, right? And then by arguments, by questioning back and forth. Questioning is good, but after some point you have to have some faith and believe in something and follow it, right? But when people start mentally speculating and they reach a certain level, and then they cannot go further, that's when they realize that, oh, what they've done, now they have to go back, So then that height represents that, like that height became what height Ranavata was trying to use against Krishna, or that material opulence or material scholarship that people try to use against putting devotees down, or arguing back and forth, just not understanding what's the real truth, or not trying to understand it either. That height became his fall down. Because he fell from that much height, he died. So, yeah, Krishna was back to Brajvasis, and all the gopis, they gave him back to Mother Yashoda. And as soon as Mother Yashoda heard, so she wasn't in consciousness when Krishna was on Trinavartasura. So when Brajvasis saw this demon on the floor, they said, oh, Krishna is back. So Mother Yashoda opened her eyes to actually see, is that true? Like, if it's not true, then I'll just close my eyes back because I can't be here this way. But that it was actually true. So then she was just holding Krishna in her arms and just chanting mantras and just trying to ward off evil spirits, thinking of Krishna as her child and ordinary kid. So that was the story of Trinavartasura. Thank you, everybody. Any questions, any doubts, any discussion points, feedbacks, corrections?
When we were saying that we have to cry, then Krishna comes. So I remember reading in a lecture, they said, said, we offer anything with love like Toyam water. They said, Krishna will accept that water, but when Krishna will come, when you will give this Toyam. So I was like, oh, wow, you can take Toyam.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So in purport, Prabhupada explains how the devotees of Krishna also can get these siddhis for service, and when they do get it, they'll be much higher, much more powerful than those of the asuras. Can you think of some examples of such devotee?
Like Jagannath Das, Babaji Maharaj, because of his bhakti, he didn't have any material qualification, but he had one disciple, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj, who was the most learned scholar of that time. So how is that possible that he, being materially with no education, was able to give, was able to raise a disciple like that? So then it said that Jagannath Das Babaji, anytime Saraswati Thakur would ask him a question, he wouldn't have an answer for it, but then he would just Krishna, this is the question, what's the answer for it? And Krishna would tell him the answer, and he would tell him to Saraswati Maharaj. And he had the mystic power of whatever he would say would come true. because, and Prabhupada has said that if you chant your rounds, like people were asking Prabhupada questions like, oh Prabhupada, how can devotees get this holistic siddhi? Prabhupada said this, it's not too difficult. If you chant your rounds perfectly for 12 years without any offense, every day during Brahma Muhurt, you can get that siddhis. But devotees don't want it, of course. But yeah, Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj had that siddhi of whatever he would say would come true. And what else? Yes?
I know what you're thinking of. Hanuman.
Yeah, Hanumanji too. Like he had all the. In Hanuman Chalisa, there's a line. Ashtasiddhi Navniti Kedan. So he had all the 8 siddhis in perfection in him.
And we noticed during Ramayana how his siddhis were overpowering that of the asuras.
Yes.
So that's exactly what's mentioned.
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
Not only he has Ashtasiddhi, not only he Data, he can give.
Provides.
Yeah. Yeah.
One comment also. Sorry. You mentioned that there is no absolute truth. This itself is contradictory. Actually, that's very profound. You just said it very casually. I'm not even sure if it was understood properly. So there is no absolute truth. This is also a very absolute statement.
Yes.
So this is actually, yeah. So that's self-contradictory.
Yes. Yeah.
We see, like, Krishna is reciprocating right away with these asuras. But with devotees, when they cry, when they have to surrender, they have to develop faith, then he comes. Like, it takes a lot of time with the devotees, and with asura, right away. Even like in Gajendra and the crocodile, like, he is delivering the crocodile right away. So why is that? Like, why does it take time to deliver the devotees and not the asuras?
Because I feel that with asuras, with devotees, I feel like he wants to relish, things that he's doing. Like, if he would just, like, reciprocate very nicely, then devotees would just, like, okay, Krishna is just giving anything. I don't have to do too much. I don't have to cry, and I don't have to, like, love him. It's just happening. But Krishna doesn't, he enjoys different varieties and flavors, like, you cry, you, like, lament, you become angry, you become all this. Like, he wouldn't enjoy all this, like, if it was for devotees to just get liberated or go back to wherever he is. That's what I think. With asuras, it's like, okay, do whatever you have to do, take liberation. I don't have. You had an answer?
No, it's okay.
Can I add this a little bit? So with asuras, he's just providing them liberation.
Yeah.
So it's instant. With devotees, he's trying to bring forth prema in them. That it's not easy for love to bring forth, and it takes time. And the whole process itself is sweet of waiting and waiting. If you're not experiencing, then you're not really generating love. So that's why.
Yeah. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah, you're mentioning about doubt. Actually, I forgot. Oh yes, you're saying that doubt. It's very dangerous to have doubts. You can go on into speculation and you can keep on speculating. But then it's also said that Bhagavad Gita, Tarviti Pranipatana.
Pariprashnena Sevaya.
So you should have doubts and you should ask questions. So how do you differentiate between those two?
So the doubts that I was talking about here is argumentation back and forth. This verse has Pariprashnena Sevaya. It also talks about submissively asking questions, to somebody who you think can actually answer your questions. But mental speculators, so in that position, we think of ourselves as not at that level of the person we're asking the questions to. So whatever that person is saying, we ask question and then, oh, this is good, we believe it, But in mental speculation, they put themselves over the person they're asking the questions to. So it's not like a submissive kind of back and forth in which you're learning. It's just trying to make a point somehow or the other. So that doubts, that kind of questions, they alienate you from Krishna. They don't bring you closer. So we should avoid that kind of talk. Even in outreach, there are some people who, like, sometimes you go for book distribution and you meet people, they just back and forth, back and forth. Like, this is not true, this is not true. But they're not trying to, like, if we're giving them a book, they're not reading it, they don't want it, but they also don't want to believe. Just fine, so you can just leave them alone. It's their journey. It's like we shouldn't pull ourselves into that, because it can sway away Krishna from our heart if we fall into it. Yeah. But of course, we have to ask questions. There has to be some logic coming in when we are doing something, but it shouldn't, like, faith has to come in at some point. Yeah. Yes.
I have a comment to make. I like this class very much because this was Srimad Bhagavatam. When Dinatani Prabhu was giving the class, I also said that sometimes I miss people are giving Srimad Bhagavatam class, but I have to look where is Srimad Bhagavatam in there. Sometimes, okay, if I will take my example, okay, I think this, and then devotee do this, and then where is analogies, Rupa Goswami's commentary, Prabhupada's commentary, where is Prabhupada saying this? So this was Srimad Bhagavatam class, not like, I think this, or I have this, one devotee did this to me, or, be careful. But this is also good. This was like 10% and 90% was Srimad Bhagavatam. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I was just speaking what Prabhupada has written. That's the only way you can be saved. Otherwise mental concoction can come.
Also, the mantra you shared in the beginning, I don't know that if you can share.
I can send a picture from the book in which it says that. Yeah, I can do that. So, yeah, I think we're over time now.